Hi everyone, your local hipster here, and it's time for a review of the new Grimes album, Anthropocene. Anthropocene is the fifth studio album from singer, songwriter, musician, visual artist, performer, producer, Grimes. She hails from Canada, and up until this point, I've always known about her, but I've never really took a deep dive into her material. And knowing that this was going to be released around the corner anytime soon, I should have taken the time to really listen to a lot of her records. Her career started getting momentum in the early 2010s with her single Oblivion that came off her 2012 album Visions. Now, Grimes was a known artist up until that point, but that song and that album it was attached to really made her more well known. Her unique fusions of electronic music and synth pop with her vocal harmonies just matched up very well on her last two efforts. Speaking of her 2015 album Art Angels, that was really the blending of pop sounds that was more accessible. Visions wasn't as accessible as most people would have imagined, and it wasn't her fully formed, in my opinion. Still having a definite sound and a definite character, I felt like Art Angels was the better and vast improvement on that record. Even if I do like Visions to a certain extent, but Art Angels is arguably the better album. Going into this album over here, I liked some of the singles, and this album had been leaked for a while too. However, I avoid listening to leaked albums, even in the case for this one, because most of the time they might not have the right track listing, or maybe the quality is not that good. As for example, really early on, the quality of the leaked version of this album online was actually pretty crappy, but it was actually leaked pretty clearly when January hit. However, I've been listening to it since it dropped this Friday, and let's just talk about it, I guess. That's what we're doing. For one, I can say that the singles released to this album actually fit better in the context of this record. Songs like 4 AM and So Heavy I Fell Through the Earth, as well as the more recent single, Delete Forever, which, in all honesty, doesn't really fit that well into the track listing. It feels like a sore thumb of sorts. It's still one of my favorite songs on the record, though. However, a bulk of the material that lands on this album also happens to be some of my favorite I've heard in a while. I guess I can get the criticisms out of the way in the first part of this review. My least favorite song, and not by a mile, but by a pretty significant margin, is the track Dark Side. As the featured artist on this track, Aristophanes, also known as Pan or Pan. She has a verse here and there. It's a rap verse spoken in Chinese. And I'm not against foreign languages in a song, in an album. I don't mind it. However, the one thing that I'm not a fan of on this track in particular is the vocal chemistry between Grimes and Aristophanes. You have this very angelic vocal delivery from Grimes, and then you have this very fast-paced rap verse from this featured artist. It doesn't fit all that well. The instrumental is fine, I do like it, it matches the aesthetic of the rest of this album, but for me personally, it's the one thing that's really bogging this album down. And like I said earlier, the track Delete Forever doesn't really fit stylistically into this album. Amongst this ocean of dark, ethereal soundscapes, you have this glittery, sparkly acoustic number with Grimes kind of channeling her inner Taylor Swift. It is a heartfelt track that was written after 6 of her friends died. I'm pretty sure it was over the course of several years. They died specifically of an overdose, and coincidentally, this track was written on the day Lil Peep was pronounced dead. There are some moments on this record, maybe in the latter half, that could get a little derivative too, like the track Before the Fever. It feels more like a reiteration of what the rest of this album is doing. I also think the songwriting is something that needs to be beefed up. However, the rest of this album is pretty good. I'm liking a lot of it. I'm liking a lot of what I'm hearing. We start off with the track So Heavy I Fell Through the Earth, which really starts the album off with the sound that's going to encompass us for the rest of this record. Angelic vocal harmonies delivered by Grimes. She sounds like a forbidden angel, backed by these very dark yet bright synthesizers. Bittersweet is another way I could describe them. They're upbeat, they're kind of glistening, but almost in a way as like an angel singing over an apocalyptic landscape. It kind of sounds like she's rising from the ashes almost, except it's not some kind of jovial experience. Instead, it's more of a oh wow, everyone else is dead and I'm like the last thing on earth. And that's not entirely a bad thing, because there is kind of a concept to this record. However, it's very thin, it's very vague. I never really thought about it while listening. It's really the material on this album that makes me worthwhile and it makes me enjoy it a lot more than what other people are giving it credit for. It captures a sound and it captures an energy that not a lot of albums can. Dark, ethereal soundscapes permeate most of this album. Songs like Violence as well as 4 AM, which the latter of the two has more of like a danceable beat to it. And then you get these backing harmonies from Grimes. It's kind of hard to describe them, like la-las or na-nas or ha-has. The song IDORU, by contrast, feels like nature is the theme of the song. You get the sounds of like a rainforest, a bird chirping, the sounds of leaves ruffling through the wind. You get a woodwind instrument that backs all of this nature sound. Very faintly, Grimes is singing over this track, almost whisper, quiet. You then get a very driven beat that incorporates itself into the song. Grimes' performance vocally on this track starts to become a little more pronounced. Then the chorus comes in and it's so catchy. It's so pretty too. It is a pretty way to end this record, even if it's the longest song on this album at 7 minutes. Does it wrap everything up that this album had entirely? No, I think there are a lot of loose ends that could have been patched up, and I don't think a lot of the soundscapes on this record really finished entirely. I kind of wanted a little more from this record too. There are some parts of it that I really enjoy that I kind of wanted more from. I like the dark harmonies on So Heavy I Fell Through the Earth, as well as Violence featuring I.O. The etherealness and the reverb that attaches to some of her vocal harmonies on the track New God is something that I wish happened a little more often. There are a lot of ideas on this record that I think could have been panned out a lot better. However, nothing panned out entirely bad. I don't think there's a moment on this record that I'm like, ugh, this needs to get out. Because for the most part, a lot of the sounds worked. There's nothing going past nice atmospheres or nice textures. I think the ideas on this record are really solid. And while it might not be her strongest album to date, it's certainly one that I find myself enjoying more often than not. I don't think I have much else to say about this album. For me, it's a very strong B+, but I am curious to know what are your thoughts and opinions on this album down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next, and that is it. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below, and remember, it's only my opinion because music is subjective.